In 2014, the whole world was shocked by the sudden loss of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 by a plane 200 passengers, over 7 years and many more searching operations. But the plane still did not find our question, what exactly happened before the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappeared? And what are the investigators' theories about why the plane crashed? Before we start our story, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to like this video, so that you are always updated with life-amazing stories. At Kuala Lumpur Airport, a Boeing 777 has prepared for its departure. The Malaysian Airline Flight 370, it is a daily passenger flight, flying between Beijing, China and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Around 12:14 in the midnight, Malaysia Flight 370 has been given clearance to take off the aircraft. Aboard plane named Captain Zaharie Ahmad Shah, First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid, 10 cabin crew members and 227 passengers. Less than an hour, the plane was in the air of the South China Sea, at a height of 35,000 feet. During that time, was beautiful and clear weather. When Flight 370 entered Vietnam airspace, it sent a signal to air traffic control in Ho Chi Minh, while the flight controller of Kuala Lumpur said goodbye and good night. After 1.5 minutes, Flight 370 suddenly disappeared on the radar of Kuala Lumpur, Ho Chi Minh and Bangkok. No longer tracked the plane, they tracked by using 2 transponders. The transponder emits a signal to know the air traffic control where the exact location of the planes reached. They wondered why suddenly the 2 transponders stopped, or deliberately deactivated anyone on the plane. Many times, they tried to contact and find out the location of Flight 370, but they all failed. Flight 370, like foam, disappeared when Flight 370 was unable to arrive. It should be in scheduled arrival, but it has been already declared missing. The most expensive searching operation begun in the history of the aviation industry. The search was initially focused around the location where Flight 370 was said to have disappeared. It was between the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. But later expanded the search area after the Malaysian military disclosed the information they had discovered. Unlike the radar system that uses air traffic control, the long-range military radar does not rely on transponders. They use reflectance to track the position of targets in the air. The data collected by the Malaysian military, they released on the public, said it was like this. Shortly after the air traffic controllers lost contact with Flight 370, the plane deviated from its scheduled flight path, and then suddenly turned right, and Flight 370 was followed by a long turn to the left and flew back to Malaysia. Then turned right on the island of Penang, directing flight to the northwest until it disappears on the radar coverage. In the following days, the Strait of Malacca, Andaman Sea, and the Bay of Bengal were explored by search parties such as ships, aircrafts, and vessels. But even the shadow of Flight 370 did not find them. Meanwhile, the investigators analyzing the satellite communication record of Flight 370 like modern airplanes. Flight 370 has a satellite communication terminal, or called SATCOM. Its function is to send and receive to the ground transmissions. According to the record, before Flight 370 flew, its SATCOM terminal was always satellite network and connected to a ground station of Perth, Australia. That station in Australia holds detailed records of incoming and outgoing traffic between Flight 370. And that station is stated in the documents before Flight 370 disappeared in the South China Sea. Everything works fine, but while the plane was flying, suddenly, the SATCOM link was cut for unknown reasons. The communication suddenly stopped. But 3 minutes later, after Flight 370 disappeared over Andaman Sea, terminal requested again to log into the network, and it successfully connected to SATCOM link to the terminal. But when it was close to 6 hours, it was suddenly cut off again. At that time, Flight 370 was declared missing in the last hours. 2 attempts were made to contact the plane via satellite phone, Both the call was received by the SATCOM terminal, and tried to contact the cockpit, but unfortunately all the calls were not answered. The terminal responds to 5 automatic status requests. When the ground station, no audible update on a plane within an hour, it will send a signal or status request to confirm if the terminal is still online, so that they find out the status of the plane. In such a way, the investigators measured the distance between the satellite and the plane. They based it on how long it took to throw and receive the transmission. Based on this data, they had an idea of the possible location of the plane, based on caught and receipt of transmissions. This include, when they read the fuel consumption, its speed and other factors. The conclusion of their flight analysis was that the plane may be in the southern Indian Ocean. This region is under Australian jurisdiction. So when the experts showed in their analysis, the search parties were there or the Australian government was looking to lead the operation. But even though they have explored the 4,500,000 kilometers of the southern Indian Ocean, unfortunately, even the shadow of Flight 370 found nothing. So, they checked the hydrophones deployed onto the Indian Ocean. The hydrophone is placed under the sea to record and listen to different sounds under the ocean. There are 4 hydroacoustic stations near here. So, if the plane crashes in the sea, it will definitely create a very loud sound, but when they took the data on the hydrophone they never heard anything strange sound. Flight 370 has to attach underwater locator beacon. It is a locating device. Its purpose: if the plane crashes under the sea, it will send a signal for locating the exact area of the plane. Its battery will last 40 days after the plane crashed. When they were looking for an underwater beacon signal, they answered that it was almost the same frequency that the beacon was throwing. They detected the signal below 3,000 meters, so they wasted no time and they immediately deployed the autonomous submersible for a few weeks. Also, this scan the signals were detected, but the search ended. They did not find a plane. There is a man also joined the search. It's named Blaine Gibson. He is an American lawyer and adventurer. He traveled from America to Malaysia. His purpose was to talk to the families of the victims. In Gibson's mind, if the search parties can't find Flight 370 at sea, he will do it. He will search the land, so he started going to the coastal areas and the beaches. He dared to see parts of the plane that drifted here. What he did was he first consulted with oceanographers. Then they made simulations called ocean current and debris dispersal pattern. The purpose of which they will know the probability in which direction. The big probability of dispersing the debris. On the advice of experts, he went to Mozambique. It is on the southeast coast of Africa. He asked for help from the fishermen, and he said if they saw any different irons that were part of the plane. A fisherman had given him, and this is the MH370 horizontal stabilizer panel. He called the fishermen and told them that he would pay them for every steel they could find that was part of the plane. Many more aircraft debris can be found here. Up to 31 debris were found by fishermen. But when experts investigated the debris, they did not find any trace of the explosion in the debris, nor did they find board mark on them. The search for the plane itself continued, but they did not find. So, in 2017, the search operation was suspended. A year later, he was also here looking for an American service company, named Infinity. But a year later, their search was also fruitless, so they stopped. As long as the remains of Flight 370 were not found, we do not know what caused the crash. Many theories have been formed why Flight 370 suddenly disappeared. Their theory is that the plane was hijacked. There were 2 men who boarded the plane using stolen passports, but when the investigators checked it in the background, these 2 men did not exist. They didn't find a crime record and they did not belong to a crime group. Investigators found out that the 2 fled their country to seek asylum in another country. They also said that the 2 had no bad intentions on the plane, so the hijacking was ruled out. Their second theory was an explosion of cargo containing lithium batteries. Except for 200 passengers, they still have 11 nitric-tom lithium batteries with them. They suspect it caused the fire. So, They said that the plane turned back to make an emergency landing at the airport. But they wondered why it went straight in the Indian Ocean, so this theory is somewhat ambiguous. Their third theory is that the same thing happened on Helios Flight 522. The plane's pressurization system may have also had a problem. So, the pilots and passengers fainted, so this is probably reason. For the few hours, the plane flew until it ran out of fuel, and this caused the plane crash. This theory is a high probability. Their last theory is that the crash happened because of the pilot. According to their investigation, he just divorced his wife. They said he had depression. Flight Simulator also found here the flight path data similar to the route of Flight 370 before it disappeared. But all of these are just theories, because until the plane sees them, they won't know what caused the crash. Thank you for watching.